everybody. This is Rosato and me. Mr. Rosato is away from his desk today, so it's Jim Nolan and myself. Jim Nolan is a Republican Westchester County legislator who is running who is running for re-election, and we're going to have a few things to talk about today, and I'll get right to the top. Right now, we are going to talk about the letter that you had sent, which is causing a lot of discussion regarding police, specifically Yonkers police, cooperating with ICE so that the city will not lose federal funding. For a lot of people who don't know, President Trump has said, okay, look, this is what's going to happen. Sanctuary cities who do not cooperate with ICE will lose federal funding, which is a big chunk of federal funding that could be lost in Yonkers. So, Jim, tell us about your letter and and the reaction to it.
Well, actually, it's for all of Westchester County. I represent Yonkers on the county level, but it's for all of Westchester County. My letter is to address, the implications of being a sanctuary county, and what could possibly happen if we don't try and come to a middle of the road agreement about potentially losing a big chunk of money. Right now, the federal government gives Westchester County directly $300 million. And there's already been many examples across the country of cities or counties not cooperating or not trying to work with the federal government. And my fear is that if we don't, and they want to come down on us, they could look at potentially cutting funding. And that's something we can't do right now. Westchester County, the residents, it's tough times still. With the cost of living, Westchester County is very expensive. We can't afford to lose that type of money or any type of money. So my letter was to acknowledge what we could possibly work on together to welcome people from other countries and establish them and give them citizenship in this country. But if someone is only a violent criminal who has been convicted of a violent crime, to have ICE cooperate with us and work with us to remove those criminals. But like I said, I want to reiterate: if you're coming to this country to be a tax-paying, law-abiding citizen and to have a better life, we should be able to work with you to make sure that you have your citizenship. But my ultimate goal is to try and make sure that we keep constituents safe and also protect the federal funding that we receive.
But there are others who would argue that, based on uh, the current migrant climate, is that a lot of people who are hardworking migrants are getting swept up in ICE raids, and that they're not being allowed their due process. So, what do you say to that?
Well, that's when we have to work with our federal government to make sure we establish a better relationship to make sure that that doesn't happen. But if it does, that person has the right to show, hey, I am not a part of this. I am trying to do everything right and do what I can to be a citizen here. So that's something that our government and the federal government have to work together on. And at the end of the day, I do believe that they will be willing to work together, especially our congressional members have already expressed that. So that is something that we need to work with one another and have a better relationship with, and that is again the goal to find the middle of the path victory for both sides.
Okay. Now, just one more question on that. Then we'll move on to other topics. But Water Czar Tom Homan has said that NGOs who are assisting migrants could get not arrested, but there could be some repercussions for those who do assist migrants and encourage them to enter the country illegally. There are a number of NGOs in Westchester County. So, how would you react to that?
Again, that's working across government lines and making sure that we have an agreement in place where we have great congressional and senator members that represent us in Washington, and that they need to work together. And from what I see, that the government in Washington has been very proactive in working across party lines and doing what they can. But that is something that we need to establish and reach out to one another and just work out a deal to make sure that this, if you want to come here, you have every right to come here, and we will assist you. And we want you to be productive. We will help you become a citizen. But the violent criminals can no longer continue to put people at risk. It's horrible that we have, and just like our country, we have American citizens that are breaking the law. They have to be prosecuted. They have to be found guilty and put in jail. But this is something that we need to make sure that we do what's in the best interest of everybody.
Okay, so basically, is it fair to say that you're in favor of migrants who have come to the country, undocumented persons? You're in favor of their right to due process?
Of course. No, listen, we all came here. Our ancestors all came here a way. And you know what? That way is the way of how we were created, how we were established. And, if we get back to the goal, the ultimate goal of what an American is, if you were born here or not, we should be able to do what we can to help one another.
Well, now I'm going to give you an easier question. Con Ed. Oh my God. Con Ed wants a rate hike.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people in what not only Westchester, I mean, there's people who are in the Con Ed are saying, well, you know something, that's a do they deserve it? So, what can
Well,
be done on your part to do something about that? That I want to say inevitable rate hike, but I'm hoping that's not the case.
so I've been very vocal since the moment I was elected, my first term. This has been happening little by little. Kind of has been taking advantage of the shutdown of Indian Point. When Indian Point was shut down, they opened up the doors for this. Now, but trying to electrical mandate everything in the state is also another issue. So we need to make sure that we tell Albany to put the pressure on the Public Service Commission that they cannot allow these changes because Con Edison is going to just continue to reach into our pockets every step that they can and take every dime that a hard working New Yorker earns. But we need to make sure we hold our elected officials accountable as well, because Con Edison, they only are getting these spikes the last few years because of the approval of the Public Service Commission and for also the elected officials that approve those members on the Public Service Commission. If you look back in like the last 45 years, the Con Ed's stocks have gone up every single year. This is something that's troublesome. But you know what? We need to make sure that we stay together and be very vocal that we do not want this. And unfortunately, if these rates are approved, we need to make sure to be very vocal continuously after that, that Con Ed should not be able to monopolize our state. They should no longer be able to supply power. We should be able to find somebody. There's no reason why Con Edison is applying the rates that they do, but if you go down south to like South Carolina or any of these other states, electrical, heating, hot water, it's all a lot cheaper. We need to make sure that we find who is in the best interest of us instead of the best interest of their own stocks. So there's a multi-level task that we have to do, and reach out to Public Service Commission, reach out to our elected official in Albany, and just continuously get the message through that we do not want these rates to go through.
Well, what about alternative programs? I mean, there was an attempt. I don't remember the name of the company that was trying to decrease utility costs for Westchester homeowners, and it worked in the beginning. Then it didn't work because their rates went up. So, what about alternatives such as solar energy, solar panels, rather?
So solar is another good source, but once that power, the battery dies out or the solar panel loses energy, that's when that Con Edison will kick in. So one way or another, if your solar panel is supplying it, or if it's like a cold and dark day, it's not getting enough energy, that's when Con Ed's going to kick in. So we need to make sure that we have alternative ways that are long lasting. Some of the technology is there, some of the technology is not there. We need to make sure that it's there and the infrastructure is there as well, without reaching into the constituent's pocket, trying to come up with different plans, and in the meantime, wasting everybody's money. We need to make sure we have plans in place that are working and proven to work.
Would you be adverse to proposing an incentive to homeowners to get solar power? Because right now, I mean, solar power is great, but the cost is the upstart cost is prohibitive to the average uh, Yonkers resident.
Oh no, of course I would. I'd be in support of it. I do believe that Con Edison has some programs, and the state does have some reimbursements. But if there was a way the county could possibly participate in that, I would be all for it. It's just because it's going to save a constituent a lot of money at the end of the year. We need to make sure we protect the best interests and the account, the affordability of our constituents that we represent. So I would be all for it if there was a way the county could be involved.
But I mean, solar power. The concept of solar panels has been around for eons. So
Yeah.
why do you think that with the outcry of people saying that our utility costs are so high, why hasn't there been a greater push for to help the common resident with solar power?
Well, it all comes down with finances too, budgets and everything like that. We need to make sure that we have enough money put aside for that. But that's on a greater scale than, say the county. Like I said, I know the state does have programs, but we also need to rely on the federal government to see if there's anything that they could do to help us in return. So it all comes down to budgetary issues.
And while we're on the topic of alternative power, the lithium battery.
Yeah.
Uh, I gotta use the vernacular here. What are they thinking?
I don't know if they are. Yeah, I don't know if they are thinking. These facilities I have spoken out against for some time now. They actually want to build one, proposing it in Yonkers, in my district. I know the city of Yonkers is adamant they do not want it, but this is another problem that we're seeing occur more and more. This is because of loopholes in Albany and, again, shutting down Indian Point and other facilities like that to supply enough energy. And Indian Point supplies so much power to us and to the state. It can actually supply enough power to the MTA system. It supplied 10% of our power to the state. This is something that, when they took it away, they never had something to back up that energy supply. So this is why we see rolling blackouts at times, and there's an energy problem. But we now are seeing that they are proposing these lithium ion facilities to try and compensate for that. But in the actuality is they're dangerous facilities because when they blow up, the amount of chemicals that are poured into the air, into the environment, uh, they could kill people, innocent people, animals. This is very dangerous, and I've been vocal about it. I have reached out to members of the federal government, also to members in Albany delegation, to not allow these facilities, and if they are, to make sure to ban them in certain areas like neighborhoods, industrial, next to gas stations, next to school, churches. We need to make sure that we keep this in line and not just let them pop up everywhere. Like I said, they're very dangerous, and we don't know enough about them. But for now, I would like to see a stoppage of them.
That's a very strong lobby for this. I mean, is this a done deal, or do you think there's a chance of defeating it?
I think there's a chance of defeating it. Like I said, there has to be other sources of energy that we have that can make up for what we're missing. But building these facilities, lithium ion facilities, is not the answer for it.
They're trying to put these up in all over the city, and
Yeah,
there's a big pushback in not I want to say Brighton Beach, not the Brighton Beach. There's a big pushback in the Mill Basin area, Marine Park area, because they
yeah.
want to put them up there, and there's been a very strong vocal community that says no, not in our backyard. So do you see the same thing happening in Yonkers, or is there a big community pushback, or is this basically on the shoulders of the county legislator?
No, there is a big community pushback on this. Last year there was an example of it up in Putnam, pouring over to Westchester County into certain areas like Somers and Yorktown. They had a proposal for solar panels, different from Best facility, but these were trailers full of solar panels. Now the community spoke out against it, and they were adamant. And these people stuck together, and they made sure to stop the project from happening. What's happening now is in Yonkers, in my district, and actually in my parents' neighborhood, you see these people coming together, neighbors. They're adamant they don't want them because they're dangerous. They're going to devalue their homes. They're going to bring up a great risk. to expose you to toxins and just wiping out the neighborhood. It's not good for anybody. So people are fed up. I've spoken out many times about it, but there are a lot of elected officials that do not want these as well. And that's what we're going to continue to push. And if you are out there and you do not want these best facilities popping up in your neighborhood or your backyard, we ask you to speak out against them. We ask you to be public about it. Let your elected officials know that, hey, I don't want this in my neighborhood. I don't want this in my backyard. Like, I have family, I have friends, I have children. I want to protect them. And we ask everybody to join us to be adamant that these facilities should not be built.
Uh, Again, speaking of that, which is a quality of life issue, I want to move to noise, which
Okay.
parts of Yonkers are famous for. Recently, Tasha Diaz spearheaded a bill which would allow the decibel level to increase and would be involved in the Yonkers code saying that noise at that particular level would be acceptable. Now, there are parts of Yonkers that vehemently disagree with that, feeling that the noise level was bad enough to begin with, and now you have a law which says the noise level can be raised and it'll be okay. And a lot of people are saying it's not going to be okay because it is not okay to have to tolerate loud conversation, blasting music, and the essence of what high noise is. So, is there anything that's being done on your level to offset that?
So on the county level, I don't know. It's the first that's been brought to my attention, but I do understand the frustration. If someone's working all day and they work for their house and they want to go home and relax or whatever the case may be, and have children. I have two children myself. I don't want them to be exposed to loud noise and sounds and music of all hours of the day. And we understand that people have the right to listen to music and stuff like that, but there is a certain point where we need to be respectful and we need to make sure that we hold people accountable for their actions. So I will look into it. I don't know if there's anything the county has that we could do, but I'll definitely look into it. But me personally, um, increasing that decimal is a problem, and I'll make sure to extend that frustration as well to my colleagues in government.
Well, there's a petition circulating, in case you're not aware. It's led by a Yonkers resident by the name of Peter Kahn, and it has now roughly 600 signatures. Because
Wow. See?
people basically, I don't know if that bill can be rescinded. I mean, I don't know at this point what can be done. But the point is that if you have 600 people out there that are saying, something, this isn't something that we want, and it should never have happened anyway, to increase the to increase the noise level and have it encoded into Yonkers E-code law saying it's okay to do this. A lot of people are saying, no, that is not acceptable. So that's something, you have your homework. You have your homework now.
No, I agree. And that 600 person petition is just another example from the last question of how people come together and do what is best for the neighborhood and where they live. There's things like that where when you work together, you can put forward the best effort to show, hey, this is what we want, this is what we don't want.
Yeah, because it's a quality of life issue. Not doesn't mean that people can't play music. Of course, they're entitled to play music, but I think what people are asking for is a reasonable level of
Mhm.
noise. That's all they're asking for. Otherwise,
I agree.
quality of life goes down. Uh, Section 8. Apparently, there has been there is now a portion of the state budget that has allowed for Section 8 vouchers. And Letitia Bellamy is saying that it's necessary because of the housing issues in Yonkers and also because it will help homeless people. And that if you do away with Section 8 vouchers, then you're going to have a worse homeless problem in Yonkers than you have now. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Listen, homelessness is a big problem. My office does receive calls at times from people that are about to lose their home or people who are homeless that we do find housing for, but it is a problem. So any program in place that provides housing or protection to put people into shelter. So you can't have people walking around in all types of weather because unfortunately we do see situations where someone's wandering around the cold. What could happen with that? Or it's just not. It's not human. It's not a human quality that anybody should have to not have to have. Like everybody should have to have a home, somewhere they can go, where they can feel safe, protected, sleep, and just be warm. So any program in place, or that's going to be a potential uh, proposal to keep people inside. I have absolutely no issue with it.
But here again, not to belabor the point, they're advocating for Section 8 vouchers in Yonkers. Now, there's
Mhm.
already a housing crunch in Yonkers for a variety of reasons. So you're going to hand out Section 8 vouchers, but where are these people going to live in Yonkers?
No, I agree. It's there are different things like again, that's when like a jurisdiction like Yonkers or whoever, if Yonkers is full, then we should be able to have a list to say, okay, well, this place is available in this jurisdiction. It has to be a team effort, just not like with elected officials, but municipalities as well. And that is something that we need to make sure to establish more of. Because if Yonkers is full, then we need to be able to say in our partners in government, hey, Chappaqua, or hey, White Plains, or New Rochelle, or hey, we need somebody to take in somebody that has a voucher. So these are things that we need to make sure to work hand in hand with.
How receptive would Chappaqua be to Section 8 vouchers? Or
How
Sparta?
accept how how accepting would they look if they were told or if they said to somebody, no, we don't want you here? There has to come a day where we are all looked at as a human being and not just our wealth. We need to make sure that we remember that people are people, and we all have the same needs and a want, and a need and a want is shelter. And that's absolutely mandatory that we should all have shelter and a safe home. So there needs to come to that period where people who have not been open to it, not been exposed to it, start to remember, hey, you know what? There are people that have less than us, but we should be able to help them in return.
Well, yeah. I want to ask you now about the inevitable yearly problems with the Yonkers schools
Hmm.
and their budget because the enrollment isn't going down, the enrollment is increasing, and sooner or later we're going to hear the outcry, we don't have enough money, we need more money
Hmm.
for schools, then that means that Yonkers taxes are going to be raised. Is there anything new with that? Because that seems to be a repetitive issue every year, and you get you brace yourself for your property tax bill, and you think, okay, what's it going to be this year? Is it going to be a 0 point increase? Is it going to be a 1% increase? What's new with that?
So for the last 4 years now, I've been trying to advocate to the state. They have to fix the foundation aid for the school formula to make sure that Yonkers receives the right amount of funding in all municipalities because it's been off for some time now. I do know that this year there has been a good amount of changes in the state formula where Yonkers will receive more funding. I believe it's anywhere from 20 to 30 million. Don't quote me on it, an additional funding, but we need to make sure that we continue to advocate because they include Yonkers in Upper Westchester where the salaries and the where the earnings are a lot higher, but they don't try and take into account it that Yonkers is right next to the New York City. They consider New York City Southern New York, and then from Yonkers up Upper New York, and that is something that we need to make sure that the state realizes that Yonkers is not in the rest of the Upper Westchester. That we have a bigger need. When you go across to other municipalities where they have like one or two schools, it needs to be taken into account that Yonkers has 40 something schools, and it's a big ask. We have almost 30,000 kids that we're responsible for. So it comes down to the formula from Albany with the funding, and I do, like I said, I do know there were changes this year in it that are making an improvement. But we need to make sure that we continue to advocate for that.
But how that kind of brings us back to the first question. there's a new sheriff in town,
Hmm.
you know, the president, and he is not looking favorably at sanctuary cities. So how is that going to factor into federal funding? How is that going to factor into his like or dislike of the Yonkers school system and federal aid?
Well, from what I understand, that Yonkers is not a sanctuary city, so I don't think that would be taken into account. We are all waiting for more guidance and regulations and what's going to be done and what's not going to be done, what's going to be taken away from the federal government. So we're still waiting on that. It comes down to the budget when it's passed. So I check in on the Westchester County part on our budgetary issues of what's going on, and we still don't have an update yet. So we're waiting. So when those come out, then we can be able to adjust of what's there, what's not going to be there, and go from there.
But you just raised an important point. You said from your understanding, Yonkers is not a sanctuary city, and this has always been
Yeah.
kind of a gray issue for a long time because from the understanding is that there are cities that outright declare themselves as sanctuary cities, and there are cities that are sanctuary cities by virtue of default. And by virtue of default, I mean that where the local police force says that they will not says is the wrong word, but the local police force does not cooperate with ICE. Therefore, they are a sanctuary city. So help me sift through that layer.
Well, that comes down to the Immigration Protection Act, where my letter originated from, because that Immigration Protection Act covers all Westchester County. But there is a problem because Westchester County is stating that we are not a sanctuary county, but the Immigration Protection Act says otherwise. So that's why we need to make sure that it's clear and device and right straight to the point. Okay, well, you're not a sanctuary county, so you should be able to cooperate with ICE on uh, need to know basis of when there's a convicted criminal, and that's the whole point of why my letter I put it together to make sure that it's clear, it's direct. This is what when we can do it, and this is the funding that we shouldn't have to lose over it. Because there's a lot of gray, as you said, there's a lot of gray areas in many laws, and we need to make sure that we're clear and spot on, word by word, so that there is no, misunderstanding, and so there's more clarity to things.
Okay, because the perception now, not to belabor the point, but the perception now is that by default that Yonkers, Westchester County is a sanctuary is a sanctuary concern, is a sanctuary city, sanctuary county. So I guess going forward we'll just have to see how that plays out. But I know I promised you a half an hour, so any closing thoughts, Jim?
No, so I just want to say thank you for giving me the time. I do appreciate it. If there's any concerns with this or anything else that I could possibly do to help you or any constituent out there, just please, contact my office.
Okay, and if anybody wants to reach you, chance to here's your chance with the with info with the 411. Email, phone contact. What's the best way to
Email.
have concerns?
Email is the best way to contact me because everything is in some type of written form. We'll make sure to get back to you. You go on the Westchester County Board of Legislators. You'll have 17 legislators who you can contact, and you're more than welcome to contact my office for anything. We love serving the people and doing what we can to help anybody in Westchester County.
All right. Well, and there you have it, folks. So that's it. You have heard from Westchester County Legislator, three-term, Jim Nolan from Yonkers.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. This is Rosato and me signing out. See you on the next one.
Take care.